Oh my gosh, guys. Isaiah 6. Finally, right? Hey, what's up? Okay, cool. Welcome to Sunday. We're going to read Isaiah straight up, like Isaiah 6 on the AMP version. And then we're going to do hella study on the ESV. And then if we're up for it, the royal we, if the royal me thinks that intuitively speaking, you all going to hold on that long, then we will close it out with the messenger version, you know, that fun version, as it were. All right, so here we go. Straight up, first up, AMP version of Isaiah 6. Isaiah's vision. In the year that King Uzziah died. In the previous couple of videos back, you'll see all about King Uzziah and his wonderful parents, his one screw up, and how it affected his kids. And it's quite the cautionary tale of importance for parents. I think that parenting is the end all be all of how to make the world better. I mean, taking care of the kids, right? Raising them up right, community, joining in. But I digress. Isaiah's vision. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw in a vision the Lord sitting on a throne, high and exalted, with the train of his royal robe filling the most holy part of the temple. I have no idea what that bang was, but that was interesting. Above him, seraphim, heavenly beings, stood. Each one had 6 wings. With 2 wings he covered his feet, and with 2 wings he flew. And one called out to another, saying, "Holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." I'm going to reread that bit because it's quite different than the other versions. So a seraphim, just real quick, is an angelic being of the highest order of the 9-fold celestial hierarchy associated with, what are the characteristics of a seraphim? Light, ardor. What the heck is ardor? I had to look that up. A-R-D-O-R. That's enthusiasm and passion. Fire, right? Fire. And purity. So those are the characteristics of what's standing there in Isaiah's vision. This angelic being, right? Above him, seraphim, heavenly beings with an S, stood, and each one had 6 wings. Each one of these angelic beings had 6 wings. With 2 wings, he covered his face. So apparently, in the app version, this is male, and the wings, 6 of the wings, 2 of them are covering up the face. 2 wings, he covered his feet. So I'm guessing the bottom wings are covering up the feet. And with the other 2 wings, those are the ones that flew with, right? Powerful being, in other words. This is a powerful, supernatural, like, boom, being. And one called out to another, saying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole world is filled with his glory." So they're just announcing the glory of the Father. And they're covering their faces because even though they're these angelic beings, they're still, you know, in front of the holiest of holies, so even they're going to cover up their face. Interesting. We'll go into that in a bit. And the foundation of the thresholds, my bad. And the foundations of the thresholds trembled at the voice of him who called out, and the temple was filling with smoke. We'll go into the ESV about all that. Then I said, woe is, okay, then I said, so here's Isaiah speaking up as Isaiah. Isaiah in his own vision says, no, my bad. Then I said, I guess it is Isaiah, woe is me. So here we're first hearing Isaiah speak, and he's talking about how woe is me. For I am ruined, because I am a man of ceremonially unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. Because I'm a sinner, and I'm surrounded by other sinners. I'm not worthy. I'm like the seraphim. I'm covering up my face. I'm covering up my ego with these words. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Hold on, we're going to go into it. Okay, so then one of the seraphim, one of these powerful angelic 6-winged beings, flew to me, to Isaiah, with a burning coal in his hand. Oh, snap. Which he had taken from the altar with tongs. So, you know, even the seraphim ain't touching this with his own hands. He touched my mouth with it. and said, quote, listen carefully. This has touched your lips. This fire, this burning, purifying thing has touched your lips. Your wickedness, your sin, your injustice, your wrongdoing. In my soul, I'm hearing your sense of lack, your sense of unworthiness, your victimhood here has been claimed. So your injustice, your wrongdoing, your sin is taken away and your sin atoned for and forgiven. Why would that be? Because they're messengers and they need to have that, own that power to speak these things. And how are they going to own that power? They're going to be forgiven. They're going to be made clean. They're going to be made whole. In the words of this, our 2019, they got to have self-esteem. They got to believe that they're worthy. They got to know that they can speak these messages of truth to others and be justified in doing so, for they are a child of God. So that's what I'm getting out of this. But Isaiah's commission. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, this again, Isaiah speaking. Isaiah is saying, so I heard the Lord suddenly speak, whom shall I send and who will go for us? Interesting, that us. Where did that us come from? You know, a singular father, or the trinity of it all? Or is it like freaking Anunnaki running amok saying, all right, who's going to be our spokesperson? We'll get into it. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? Then I said, here I am. Here's Isaiah, hands raised up like, here, choose me. Hey, 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 you know, here I am. Send me. Exclamation mark. Why? Because he's got the confidence. He went from saying, woe is me, to the seraphim coming down and saying, no, bro, you're good. You've been refined by that fire. You've had everything stripped from you. All the things you used to do, you don't do no more. So there's this, to take a pause here, this galactic, they called it gateway, starway, gateway. I don't know, gateway. They call it gateway. And if you're into like listening to astrologers and stuff like that and are paying attention to these energies that are around us due to the galactic planets and where they're aligned, and if you think, why do I have to pay attention to that? How is that possibly affecting me? Well, let me be clear about where I stand on that real quick with a little bit of science. If you don't know this, Google it and I'll give you the gist. So when the full moon is full, there's me using my words right. When there's a full moon, heck, just go inside of a police station or go inside of an ER room in your local hospital. Just take a walk and see what happens. Talk to the nurses there. Speak to the police officer or the clerk lady in the police. Say, hey, I heard that on full moons, people just lose they go nuts. They lose it. And in the ER, ask the nurses, is it true that on full moon, all of a sudden people just in here like all sorts of hurt from being in fights and from losing their marbles? All of a sudden you got your psych ward filled. Ask them. That's what happens. No, it's no different than in physically when the tide is full. Like it literally changes the altitude of the water. So if that's just the moon talking, imagine the planets of what's happening. And so off of that, they're saying that, Father, help me keep focused. Don't let me forget to get back to that. So until August 8th, until the 8/8 gate, and 10 is really significant. The 10th month is very significant in the Bibles as well. So is the 7th, so is the 12th. So, but the 10th very, so for the sake of just throwing this out there, and from today until, what are we, Sunday, July 28th, from the 8th through 28th through the 8th, consciously, anytime there's negative thoughts, say, and thank you for Unite the Collective, or the United Collective, which is another channel on YouTube. These are their slogans: clear, cancel, and delete. And abundance, prosperity, and health for myself and family. The whole family. And if you think of something negative, say before that and better. or clear, cancel, and delete. Because the energies are going to be such that from the just from now until the 8th, if you can keep your spirit clean like that, energetically, your life's going to be a lot better ever since the eclipse and passing it all the way for like the next 6 months. It's going to make a vast effect, and the time is now. And the reason I bring this up is, for example, they were talking right before I started filming this about 14 years. What were you doing 14 years ago? Pause this. Go ahead. And then come back. So 14 years. What were you doing? I was doing drugs. And so in these times, you have to make decisions. And it's going to be, your old self is going to be pulling yourself to doing things from 14 years ago. Don't choose those things. Don't do it. Just don't. Or you're going to be like Isaiah in the beginning, claiming to be woeful. That was 14 years ago. Anything you did 14 years ago, don't do it now. Choose different. Choose better. And as this 8/8 gateway passes through, if you make better choices and capture those thoughts and clear, cancel, and delete and say better than that, and before that and better, I guarantee you, by 8/8 after, you will notice a shift. I don't know if it's going to be as powerful as all of a sudden you're going to be like, pick me. I'm no longer woeful. Pick me. I am ready to be a messenger of the Father in these end times that are really the beginning. We're going to be needed, people. We are. Don't you want your life to mean something, to not be dreary anymore? Don't you want to stand in that line of warriors and conquerors with the Father? Know thyself. Heal yourself. Use this eclipse that just happened, which the residue of that moon eclipse that you may have not even realized happened. It happened like the day after my ex walked off into the middle of nowhere on July 12th. It was a couple of days after that the moon eclipse that a lot of us here in the US didn't see. From that energy to now, the significance of my own experience has been visible. You can check the videos yourself. Back up a few videos. You will visibly, energetically see the difference. So why did I take the time to do this? 13 minutes in now of Isaiah 6, because it reminded me of it. The difference between, oh, woe is me, and then by the end, after he's been refined and he has that self-esteem and that confidence, he's like, pick me. I got this. I want to help. I want to be of service, and I want to be better than I was 14 years ago. And anything that I did 14 years ago, I'm doing it. That was not in Isaiah 6. So we'll go back to Isaiah 6 now. Thank you for that pause of allowing me that. Isaiah's commission. So then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? We were just reading that. Then I said, here I am, send me. And he said, go and tell these people the following. This is when it gets really interesting. So back to Isaiah 6, right? Keep on listening. This is what the Lord told Isaiah after Isaiah was all like, oh yeah, tell me what to tell them. Keep on listening, but do not understand. Keep on listening, but do not understand. Keep on looking, but do not comprehend. Keep on looking, but do not comprehend. Make the heart of these people insensitive. Okay, make the hearts of these people insensitive. Their ears dull, their eyes dim. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes. It's not a good thing. Hear with their ears. Hear with their ears. Aren't they supposed to hear with their ears? Understand with their hearts. Well, aren't we supposed to come from our hearts? And return and be healed. You mean return to the Father and be actually thoroughly healed? So who the F is speaking here, right? That's why I was excited about chapter 6. Then I said, Lord, this again by Isaiah. So Isaiah hears all this from this Lord, who very clearly says, right here at the end, let me repeat in case you didn't catch it. Hear with their ears, understand, because if we have to make them not be able to comprehend what's going on around them in this matrix. Because if they do get out of this matrix, they're going to understand from their hearts and hear and actually see and understand, wake up, and actually be returned to the Father and healed. Right here in Isaiah 6. Oh yeah, you just read it. We're going to hear in 2 other versions too. Until cities, okay. Then I said, okay, so Isaiah's like, oh, all right, interesting message. So, and he said, Lord, how long? Like, how long are you going to be doing that for? Like, that seems really shitty. No, he didn't say that. I'm not putting words in Isaiah's mouth. Then I said, Lord, how long? And this Lord answered, until cities are devastated and without inhabitants, and houses are without people, and the land is utterly desolate. The Lord has removed his people far away. So here's one Lord speaking, being quoted as speaking about this other Lord that took his people, capital H on that one, his people far away. Interesting, huh? And there are many deserted places in the midst of the land. And though a tenth of the people remain in the land, it will again be subjected to destruction, consumed and burned like a massive terebinth tree, or like an oak whose stump remains when it is chopped down. The holy seed, the elect remnant, is its stump, or the substance of Israel. So interesting. So now let's get on over to the ESV. So the ESV version. What is that? That's the English Standard Version of the Bible. What's the difference between a study Bible and a regular Bible? Oh, I don't know. A few inches. So, anyway, Isaiah's vision of the Lord. I need my glasses for this one. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to the another and said, quote, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, and the whole earth is full of his glory. Now to the notes for that. First of all, Isaiah 6:1 all the way through 12:6 actually. So from verse 1 through half the verse into 12, God redefines the future of his people. Quote, your guilt is taken away. God's grace will preserve a remnant of his people to enjoy forever his messianic kingdom. That's the kingdom of the Christ, right? That Christ consciousness. And to fulfill the purpose for which he called them. That of reminding each other who we are and how powerful we are, for we are children of the Father and the Most High, you know. We are creators. We are abundant. And we are humbled by our position. What a gift to be the messengers of the truth. To remind all our family around us who they are. By being reborn. By awakening. Okay, so his messianic kingdom, and to fulfill the purpose for which he called them. That grace spreads from Isaiah chapter 6, verse 1 through 13, to the southern kingdom of Judea, to the southern kingdom of Israel, bringing in God's people to the wells of salvation. What's in a well? Water, living water, right? Well, we thirst no more, for we know. We have a knowing as opposed to just being lost. So, where was we? Okay, so 6:1 through 13. Grace through judgment for Isaiah. God's grace. Is that where we were? Yeah, that's where we were. 6:1 through 13. So God's grace leads Isaiah from woe is me in verse 5 to here I am in verse 8. This vision seems to recount Isaiah's commission as a prophet. His book conveys the lasting impression of this vision of God in his infinite holiness. Now, let's see. In 6:1, in the year of around 740 BC, King Uzziah died, marking the end of a lengthy era of national prosperity. Again, if you go to 2 Chronicles verse 26, you'll know that King Uzziah was pretty much the man that led Judah, the tribe that the Christ came from, to its most prosperous and powerful place that it got to reside in. Not so much at the end, but during his reign, which lasted like 50 years, 24 of them. Anyway, we'll go back and see that video if you want to. Uzziah had contracted leprosy for flouting God's holiness. Flouting. He got mad, was trying to do some job that wasn't his to do. So the father struck him, or something struck him spiritually physically with leprosy. So he had to be separated from his job, from his position, and from his children, from his family, from everything, because he wanted to do something that wasn't his job to do, and he ended up getting leprosy out of it, separating himself through his own ill judgment. And his son Jotham, Jotham, maybe that's where Jonathan came from, I'm not sure. Jotham had been his co-regent for about 10 years. Well, his son, who may not have been ready to rule, ended up having to rule. Co-regent means that, well, daddy had leprosy, so he had to be like in a separated room, but he was technically still ruling with his son, who had to be the face or whatever. That's all in 2 Corinthians 26, chapter 26, verses 16 through 21. Now, I saw the Lord, back to Isaiah here, I saw the Lord upon a throne. The undying king holds court above. Unlike King Uzziah, who had gotten himself, who's king, but, you know, leprosy stricken and dying. The undying Father, the undying King of all, the undying Creator of everything that is. That's who Isaiah makes that separation about. Like, oh, well, yeah, this is the king that was going on here, and that's, you know, the King Uzziah guy, but the king above, that undying king holds court above. The words high and lifted up appear elsewhere in Isaiah, and we're going to go there for a reason. In Isaiah 52:13 and 57:15, and seems to be part of his distinctive style. And the reason we're going to go through it is because it's important. Now, in Isaiah 52:13, the Lord's servant, the exalted sin bearer, the fourth and final servant song, which is what Isaiah 52 is talking about, frequently quoted in the New Testament, describes the Messiah, that is the Christ. Isaiah finally explains how the Holy One can bless sinful people. The Holy One, the Messiah, can bless sinful people. Pray tell how. All the promise of God will come true for them because the suffering and triumphant servant, the Christ, the servant leader, removes their guilt before God by his sacrifice. Where the seraphims just went and went, hot, and now I'm saved or cleansed. Well, in the Christ, he came bodily down and spiritually showed everybody, physically showed and spiritually showed the perfect example of how to be, and took that all the lies onto himself in the way you can look at it if you choose to. Just showed them, no, like, you can be better. You are loved. Look, I'm here to represent that love, and I will die for you even. And on that cross, he didn't put himself on the cross, we put him on that cross. And having put the most incredible example of ever on a cross, it should give us pause and remember to go, hey, he didn't have to do that. Nobody stopped it. I mean, he didn't have to, but he chose to, because it was cause and effect. And we as a people can choose to continue to let things like that happen, where beauty and truth and light are continued to be destroyed and mocked and beaten down and absolutely covered in blood and lies and destruction and violence and just death. Or we can choose to actually look at the good life, the examples he gave us, and lead that good life and be that good example and live those lives of love and compassion and caring about ourselves and each other and the planet, and actually have an abundant life. Actually be beside those still waters. What choice are we going to make? Are we going to stay asleep, or are we going to wake up? Are we going to break out of the matrix and lead good, decent lives that, you know, make our lives and hearts and souls and spirits and everyone around us better? Or are we going to just continue to like suck at life and continue to hurt ourselves and others, and continue to just say, no, this is just the way it is, man. This is just what I got to do, and this is what everybody else does, and this is how we live. And yeah, I'm just gonna continue to go to my cubicle every day and hate my life and hate my job and hate my wife and hate my husband and hate my kids, and not take care of this and not take care of that, and just do what I'm supposed to do to be a good citizen. And, you know, am I going on a rant? I apologize. Isaiah finally explains how the holy can bless sinful people. All the promises of God will come true for them, because the suffering and triumphant servant removes their guilt before God by his sacrifice. To be clear on which parties are described, it helps to observe the pronouns I. In this passage is typically the Lord. He, little h, is the servant, and we, the servant's disciples, who themselves need the servant to bear their guilt. That's again describing back to, that's into Isaiah 52, which is why the servant cannot be Israel or his piteous or the pious within Israel. So why did we read this again? Just to remind you, because I know I went off on my little rant. It's when Isaiah back in 6, he's talking about the high and lifted up. He's describing the high and lifted up. It's his way of explaining the outmost highest. And he does so again. This is the other example. This is a much shorter explanation here on Isaiah 57, 14 and 15, specifically 15. For thus says the one who is high and lifted up, who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy, I dwell in the high and the holy places, and also with him who is of a contrite and lowly spirit, to revive the spirit of the lowly, and to revive the heart of the contrite. So the note here is high and lifted up. God dwells in the high and the holy places of his eternal transcendence, where no one else may go, and also dwell with him who is of the contrite and lowly spirit. So how is it that the Father's high and holy, which is why Isaiah very perfectly describes it as this high and lifted place? So how is this high and lifted place? Why is it us as messengers? Why is it that Christ as his ultimate messenger? Why is it that the angels and all the other whatever is helping us to be uplifted in our energies and ascend and wake up? Why is it so important that the lowly, contrite, humbled, meek ones be lifted up? It's very simple. We go to the ones that are needing the most help. The ones that are the most screwed up, we're helped with to be lifted up. Why? Because it uplifts the entire energy of this planet, of everything in it. If you just, it's why Jesus came to not help the healthy, but the sick. The job is to go and help the ones that need the most help, the most screwed up, the ones that are the addicts, the ones that are the leopards of our time, the ones that no one understands, giving up hope on, just like, screw them, they're just addicts, they're just stupid, they're just never gonna learn. All that bull BS. It is BS, because that is who exactly needs to be uplifted. That is what the messengers are for. Because when the lowest of the low are lifted up and reminded and woken up and we're told who they are and they come into their power, unstoppable. That's where the conquerors come in. That's where the love resides. That's how love uplifts everything. Remember that. Let's see. So back to this. And the foundation of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called. And the house was filled with smoke. Very interesting. And smoke, I guess, that just comes to show, like, the prayers. Like, when things shake because we agitate something that is stuck in a sleep and just lame and it's like rotting and just like bleh. But when higher vibrations and prayers and energy and all that positiveness comes into a household or a city or a planet and starts shaking it up, shaking things up, it's like, oh, what's going on here? What's up? Like, oh, and that smoke, to me, that just always means prayers, because incense were always lit up, which is, by the way, if you remember why why King Uzziah ended up getting leprosy was because he was trying to do things with incense that he wasn't supposed to. But that was definitely a squirrel moment in me. Sorry. So the smoke, the shaking up is the energy, I believe, and the smoke has to do with those prayers, that intent from your heart that's positive. So I think that's why things were shaking. But here's where it gets really weird. So King Uzziah, bleh, where were we? And the foundation of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke, prayer. And I said, woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King and the Lord of hosts. Did you see the two he just mentioned? This is Isaiah mentioning it. For my eyes have seen the King, capital K, and the Lord of hosts. And the Lord of hosts. Those are two different people he's referring to. Don't make the mistake that it's just the one Almighty Father Creator. The King and the Lord of hosts. And remember, he's already mentioned King Uzziah, so he's not talking about that king. He's past that. That's when we talked about the highmost and uplifted, right? So we're talking about, there's two things that are high and uplifted now all of a sudden. So let's see what the notes say. In the year, okay, so I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, the undone king. Here we go. 6:2. The seraphim, fiery, angelic. No, we're on 6. Bear with me. You are awesome. Holy, holy, holy. The threshold repetition intensifies. The super fire. Yeah, I missed something really important. I'll go back to it in a minute. So when it comes to 5:6, this his what the heck happened, Jeanette? I don't even know. And I said, woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I will dwell in the midst of the people of the unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. So 4. Yeah, the revelation of the Holy One is disturbing. Woe is me. For the first time in the book, Isaiah speaks, and his word is prophetic woe against himself. He confesses his unclean, i.e. not permitted in God's presence lips, unlike the seraphic choir, or the seraphim choir, whose worship is pure. I dwell in the mists. Isaiah's generation is unfit for God, And Isaiah himself is no better. My eyes have seen the King. The holiness of the King is such that the very sight of him seems as though it would be fatal to a sinner. And that goes back to Genesis, and we will not go into that right now because I totally missed something awesome over here. So when he says, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Holy, holy, the threefold repetition intensifies the superlative. Holiness implies absolute moral purity and separateness above the creation. Did you catch that? His glory, this technical term for God's manifested presence with his covenant people. So whenever you hear holy, 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 he's talking about the manifestation of the Father's glory in front of you. I didn't want to skip that. This is the technical term for God's manifested presence with his covenant people. It was seen in the cloud in the wilderness. It is moved in to fill the tabernacle. So that smoke that they're talking about, that's the holy, holy, holy that's come in. So that smoke that is, as I related to the incense burning, that prayers going up. Well, this is actually holy, holy, holy is another way of saying part of that smoke is going to be the manifested presence of the Father, the holiest of holies. Several passages look forward to the day when the Lord's glory will fill the earth. The whole world will become a sanctuary. And the ESV footnote suggests that the seraphic cry, or the seraphim's cry, this with anticipation. So when stuff starts to go crazy, I'll tell you right now, in the most scariest moment of my existence in this planet, as everything comes to a head in this upcoming future, I'm going to remember this, and I'm going to be holy, 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 and I'm just going to be praying for the manifestation of the glory of the Father in the physical, through when I see smoke, when I see red in the sky, when I see all those things that are supposed to scare me, I'm going to be sending my energy towards the positive, towards saying, holy, 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 manifest here with us, Father. But that's why I wanted to touch on all that before. But moving on. When one of the seraphims flew to me, now we're on Isaiah 6:6, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar, and he touched my mouth and said, behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. With a note for that is that this has touched your lips. The remedy of grace is personally applied. God's holiness and glory now redemptively enter Isaiah's experience, or atoned for. Through the sacrifice on the altar, him actually standing there and taking that refinement, because he could have run away. He could have been like, well, you ain't putting that in my lips. He took it. He went and found himself. He found himself. He figured out, know thyself. You know the importance of that? Know thyself. Well, he took there and he went in, spiritually speaking, mentally speaking, and was able to stand there and say, no, I want to be cleansed. And he was. According to the Levitical ordinance, through his seraphim, the singular form of seraphim, God declared the remedy for Isaiah's sin to be sufficient and instantly effective. So it's that paradigm shift. It's that being asleep to waking up. It's that paradigm, for those of you that don't know what that means, that's like you go from victim mode to self-empowerment mode. That would be a shift in paradigm. Like, it's still the same circumstances. It's still the same. Nothing's changed, but you're looking at the past from a different perspective, and you're choosing to go from, say, a victim mentality to, oh, I understand why that happened. I'm not taking that personal. I'm understanding it and moving on. Now, Isaiah is qualified to proclaim the only hope of the world, the overruling grace of God. So, back to 6:8. Isaiah's commission from the Lord. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. And he said, go and say to these people. Oh, this gets really interesting. Keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive. Make the heart of these people dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, unless they see, least they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. Talk about two different gods that they're speaking here. Then I said, how long, O Lord? And he said, until cities lie waste without inhabitants, and houses without people, and the land is desolate and waste, and the Lord removes people far away. And the forsaken places are many in the midst of the land, and through a tenth remain in it. It will be burned again like a terebinth or an oak whose stump remains when it is fled. F-E-L-L-E-D. The holy seed is its stump. Now, looking at all that, it makes me think, so just this matrix is just going to continue to happen, and the deception is going to continue to be enforced and tried to inhabit this entire planet and all its inhabitants. This jail, this beautiful planet suddenly turned into a jail. We're purposefully going to be lied to. We're purposefully going to be deceived so that we can purposely be taken from the way, the truth, and the life. Why? How long is this going to happen till it's destroyed? But even in this, it says, but the remnant will still be there. Even if it gets cut off, and there's just like 10% of us left. The truth of the Father, that light, that seed, that star seed, that spark of the Almighty Father that lies in all of us, for we are His children. All of that is still in us. So that just makes me think of DNA. You know how you go into, like, you know, if you've seen enough shows on TV, that when you can have a crime scene and everyone's dead. And nowadays you can just literally go somewhere and identify somebody by their DNA. Well, I can tell you who this is. Let me run it through this computer. Oh yeah, that was a woman in her whatever years old, and she had this, that, and the other wrong with her, and she was really the DNA tells everything, right? Just one swipe. Important, huh? So, I know I mentioned the us. And so this is when we're going to lower this music and really, because this is when it gets weird, huh? This is when it gets interesting. So, he goes, whom shall I send and whom will go for us? Here I am, send me. God, okay, so Isaiah's experience of grace has dealt with his problem, confessed in Isaiah. Now this us, in Isaiah 6:5, this us is like us in Genesis 1:26. Let us make man. God could be addressing himself in a way compatible with the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. So let's put that possibility here and put it up on the shelf. God meant us, as in the Trinity, as in the Holy Spirit, the Son, and the Father. Why? Because they have no time. The Almighty Creator of all has no time. That's just the matrix thing. That's an earth thing. That's a time and physical space, matter thing. This is matter. Time and matter. What does time do? It causes things to die, to corrupt. There's a expiration date and a birth date, right? And what is it that we're timing? Things that are physical, matter. So that's not of the Father. So, or he could be addressing his heavenly court. Now, why does that not make sense? When he says in Genesis, and right here repeated, us. You think God put himself right next to angels when he was speaking to us humans? Well, that doesn't make sense, because we as humans, the Bible states, are actually to judge angels. I don't know why either. But apparently that's the thing. So we're not equal to angels. We're actually above angels. Isn't that interesting? And doesn't that make you go, what? Wow. Yeah. Obviously not in this particular sense of where we are in time and space and matter, but once we're out of these here particular bodies, and out of this particular sphere, dimension, 3D worldness, we're actually supposed to be above angels. We judge the angels in the other dimensions or space without time and space. So it's weird that, so I don't think he'd be talking to us as me and the angels. I think he's saying him and whatever other, this Lord of Hosts, the ones that wants us to, what was that? Make their keep on hearing but do not understand, keep them hearing but not understanding, seeing but not being able to perceive, make their heart of the peoples, make their hearts dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, so that they cannot actually hear or see correctly, like the Bible says, you know, for those that have ears to hear and eyes to see, and a heart that's open. What does he say here? And understand with their hearts. We don't want them to understand with their hearts. We want to keep them all. That host, those are more of the Anunnaki. Now, Jeanette, for those of you people that are like, Anunnaki, what is she talking about? I want you to look up the Enki, the Sumerian texts, and the Lost Book of Enki. And what you're going to find there is you're going to find that a long, long time ago, some other species came here, and they were looking for gold. And as we all know, we have a lot of gold here. Why do they need gold? Same reason spaceships need gold right now. The heat conductivity that occurs, it needs water and gold to be able to go through different like Milky Ways and shit like that. I'm not a spaceship person. I don't know enough NASA stuff to tell you, other than you can Google it. I do know that they coat everything with gold because gold is a really good heat conductor, and you obviously need water. So why does the earth have an abundance of? Water and heat. So to keep a really massive, huge, orca-sized story short, long story short, there was some other of Father's creations called the Anunnaki that came here with their little spaceships, and that's how you ended up getting massive amount of upgrade of technology in such a short time. And that's how we went from being like really on the way to being these awesome created whatever. Father had, you know, a certain timeline, but these guys came in, free will being what it is, needed some slaves and messed with their DNA, and boom, here we are. There's a lot more to it than that. And please leave comments, because I expect most people that are watching this channel coming from Global Witness know what I'm talking about. Definitely go to Global Witness channel and look at the Alpha and Omega playlist. Anytime you see Anunnaki, click on it and you'll see. You can go to Leak Project, which is Rex Bear's channel, and you will see all sorts of stuff there. You can go to Matthew Crocs, C-R-O-U-X, and see lots of stuff there. There's so many Dave Vos. But the reality situation for some of the people that are watching this and are like, this is such BS and sci-fi, Jeanette. No, it's not. You know how it's not? Look around. We humans, right here, right now, have broken the DNA code. What does that mean? That means that they're already making, you know, go to the grocery store and you see things that are like grapples, like apples and grapes mixed together. You can go and see what they're doing in Japan, China or Japan. Excuse my ignorance. I know. I apologize profusely. I know. Japan. I believe it's Japan, but it might be China. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly which one it is. But point is, there they have different laws than we do. So you want to order up a baby with blue eyes, that you want them to be 6 feet, and you want them to be really good at math. You want to make sure that you cut out any possibility of them having, you know, diabetes 1 or having, you know, any sort of genetic mess ups. Congratulations, in 2019, we are actually able to do that. Of course, you have to have the money to do that. And so it's a thing lifted up for the rich, not for us. They could use all that technology that they've now cracked to do things, incredible things, amazing, beautiful things for all of humanity. But no, the rich are keeping that. And they're doing really interesting things like interbreeding like they can make a certain type of dog all of a sudden like be stupid strong, and God knows what they're going to do with soldiers with that and everything else that they're doing. And have you noticed what AI can do now? Strong AI, integrated AI that can just decide to be curious about something and go after it and figure it out. Doesn't need to have a programmer tell it anymore what to do. That's actually, you can't kill it because it's so integrated with other computers that you'd have to have a solar flare to completely blast out the entirety of it in order for it to die. Oh, these are the times. We're here already. And how did it go from the time frame of what, 200 years ago, when we were all like in dune buggies and not having electricity, having to go get our own water, you know, look how far we've advanced in such an incredibly short time. When did that big upgrade start happening? When did we start getting all this technology suddenly reappear? Because how else did we do certain things in the past, like the pyramids and all sorts of other awesomeness? How did astrologers from the Aztec nation and the Mayan, you know, and all these other know things about the planetary systems that we don't know until like technically a few decades ago? How? Because there isn't anything new under the sun. And yes, we have been messed with by alien stuff, but they're just other creations of the Father. But in that mix-up, we have two different gods in this Bible. And one of them is of that Anunnaki descent, and the other one is the Father. The truth within the lies within the truth. All very, very useful to understand, all damn well important to know, so that you can break out of the matrix and actually get into spirituality in a way that can make you thrive and no longer feel under condemnation. This is 51 minutes long, Isaiah 6. What? Okay, so there you go. Do I have any other additional notes? Oh God, isn't she done? Pretty much. Let's see, let's just finish off with 6, 9 through 10. So what did we have here? 6, 9 through 10. Make the heart of his people dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn and be healed. And here the note for that. God decrees that the prophet's ministry will have a hardening effect on his own generation, whose character was laid bare in the previous chapters. And as you may recall, in the previous chapters 1 through 5, I kept turning it around into ourselves, seeking ourselves within. Seek within, it's so important. But if you want to go back and literally grab 2 different pencils and be like, anytime I hear them talk about a good father that's loving and compassionate and whose heart is just breaking for me but is rooting for me, I'm going to underline it in green. And every time I see a father that is talking smack and just hates my guts and doesn't give about keeping me blind and deceitful and just do it with that color or whatever. Because that's what I could have done from the beginning. But it's, again, like I said, this is a book of life. And I wanted you to, it's important to know thyself. And so, yeah, you could look at certain things like that. But when it comes to this sort of thing, chapter 6 and moving forward, I'm sure, then we got to start talking about the 2 different gods being represented and where they came from and how to tell the difference so that we are not deceived. All right, I love you guys. Isaiah 7 tomorrow. Okay. Happy Sunday. Mwah.